farming here in New Zealand through the autumn, it's kind of like the lyrics of a Kenny Rogers song. You know the lyrics. You got to know when to hold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. The weather throughout our autumn seasons is so interchangeable that making decisions is mind-blowingly difficult. We had to hold on to stock or to sell because it's so interchangeable at any one time. I was reading through the Farmers Weekly this week, and I've always loved Steve Wynne-Harris's opinion pieces from Hawke's Bay, and he said they should give me a ring in a month because if it hasn't rained by then of course they are looking at being in a consecutive drought. Following weather is a farmer's daily task, as well as our next guest, RuralWeather's Phil Duncan. Phil, just before we get off, are you a Kenny Rogers fan?
Actually, I am, and that song, isn't that, that's what they play in a bar whenever they're trying to shut the bar down, as they play the Gambler. At least they used to when I used to go out.
Yeah, hey, we're going to turn to Hawke's Bay shortly, but Climate Watch's outlook for March, how's that La Nina looking?
Yeah, so we've issued our first March climate update today. You can find it on the Rural Weather website. We've got a news story with 11 maps in there, and we've also got a video about it, which is a 10-minute special video. We're really looking at the big picture that's coming up at the moment, and with La Nina starting to sort of fade away very, very slowly, but at the same time, one step back with that, but one step forwards with the fact that the sea surface temperatures are now at their highest, so that still means we've got a chance for some rain. The month of March is kicking off dry, as we all know. So the North Island's drier than average, the Eastern South Island much drier than average. You know, you're into that extreme edge of the scale there. And when we look at the temperatures for the month, this is not rainfall just yet, but temperatures, the North Island 0.5 degrees, half a degree above average. The South Island half a degree to 1 degree above average for the month ahead. So it's still a little bit La Nina-esque. But speaking of La Nina, we do have a bit of rain. This is the next 3 days rain coming up. And what we're seeing is on the west coast, full totals of over 120 millimetres of rain. So plenty coming for them. But for almost everybody else, much lower rainfall totals, especially on this eastern side where there's almost none falling. Now that's just 3 days. But this is 2 weeks out. Now at a glance, and for those who are listening, it's just a blob of colour. But what we're looking at to the north in the tropics, this is the area where we're expecting a cyclone to form in the next few days. So that's very typical of March. So even though La Nina is fading, the sea surface temperatures up here are going to produce a low that's going to make 300 millimetres of rain up in the tropics. But there's a dry belt between New Zealand and the tropics, thanks to high pressure, where there's almost no rain falling just north of New Zealand. New Zealand itself, I just mentioned the west coast has got a lot of rain coming, over 200 millimetres, in fact, in the next 2 weeks. But on the eastern side, the green and yellow colouring you see on the map of New Zealand shows just 10 to 20 millimetres over 2 weeks. So that is not a lot of rain yet to come still. So I think March is going to kick off a little bit like La Nina, but not perfectly the way that many people would like. We still don't have those big rainfall numbers.
Oh, Phil, you didn't make any friends there, particularly in the East Coast in Canterbury and, of course, in Hawke's Bay. But just when you're talking there around those numbers in the West Coast, I mean, we all know it. The rain falls very heavily. But is that the sort of numbers that the West Coast should be concerned about with surface flooding, etc.?
Maybe a little bit, but not too much. I mean, this is spread out over 2 weeks. The West Coast is leaning a little bit wetter than average, but it's not looking too bad. I think what we're going to notice a lot more of is cloud. A lot of cloud around the country now. That also leads to fog and other things like that. So we're into that time of year where, as you say, like the Gambler song's brilliant because that kind of is what we're dealing with autumn weather. You know, some days you got to kind of work out, is this week going to end like it started, or will it end completely the opposite? This week's one of those weeks. The first week of March kicks off with northerlies and humidity and ends with southerlies and a temperature drop.
And it already has that autonomous feel. And on my morning walk, the chorus of the ducks is coming in, getting many a duck shooter very excited. So the idea of having a fog forecast at ruralweather.co.nz is quite exciting for that. But could you explain to us more around why and how we read fog?
Yeah, so one of the issues we had, or I had growing up, was that you'd always find that, you know, the airports were closed due to fog, or they're not closed, but the flights are all delayed and cancelled. A lot of people in this country travel from our small regional airports to other ones, and so we got thinking, what can we do better in this area? We've got all the data with IBM, so how do we produce that into something? So at the Rural Weather website, when you first log on to it, you've got these buttons at the top, and if you click on the fog and cloud one, it adds our fog forecaster. It's the only one in New Zealand. In fact, I got a feeling it's pretty much the only one in the world. I've struggled to see them in other countries. So it's a unique New Zealand product. And when you click on it, what it does is this example here for Hamilton Waikato, classic place for fog. It shows a couple of risks here, just very times, possible fog, Thursday morning, Wednesday morning. Another feature you might have noticed, thunderstorms both of those days. That's quite a common thing. If you've got fog in the morning, means you've got moisture, calm weather. In the afternoon, when you add some daytime heating, produces thunderstorms. But we do have this possible risk here. Let's go to the other end of the country, Balfour, Southland. And again, possible fog overnight tonight, going into Tuesday morning, 2 or 3 times there. Now, look, it might not be fog because it's only possible fog. We get a bit more certain with other events. But it can also point out low cloud. And this map, the grey graph you see, that is showing fog and cloud in the mixture. So it's very, very useful, as you say, for duck shooting, which is coming up in a couple of months' time, to check out the fog forecaster. It's a unique product to ruralweather.co.nz.
Oh, I'll have to promote that actually. Now, when it comes to certainty, we have our My Rural Weather competition where you can win a Proud to be a Farmer enamel camping mug, thanks to the team at Global HQ. And we've selected no other than, of course, because his pulpit has been all about the concern around the dry, is Steve Wynne Harris at Hatuma in Hawke's Bay. Steve wants to know what's in store over the next month for them in Central Hawke's Bay. Phil?
Yeah, well, Steve lives in a beautiful part of the country here, Hatuma, in Hawke's Bay region. Over here, that's going towards the west coast, the Cook Strait area. So, well, feeding into Cook Strait, I should say. So this location, near the mountains, near ranges, classic place to dry out. When you zoom in, you can really see why. This is where Steve lives, I believe, and you've got a set of ranges near you, but the big main ones out there in the distance looking west towards the Tasman Sea. So this time of the year, we get a lot of westerly winds. They dry out as they come over the ranges. They warm up. That's why it's a beautiful place to live. Lots of sun, lots of dry weather. But the downside is when you need rain, it can be a very tricky place to get it. So I took a look at his forecast on the Rural Weather website. We've got every single Kiwi community on there. There is not one part of New Zealand we do not cover. So you no longer have to worry about where's your nearest airport for your nearest forecast. This is specific to your property, Steve, and it shows pretty much weather. A little burst of rain here, though, later on Thursday. So if you go to the Rural Weather website, you scroll down the page and you'll see daily data. And when you click on that, you go for that Thursday that we were just looking at, and there's a 90% chance of rain, and it says 11.2 millimetres. You can then click on that part and work out, specific to where Steve lives over there in Central Hawke's Bay, you can see the rain for that day, for this Thursday. So the pale blue shows the chance of rain, fairly high chance, 85%. So that's a pretty good chance. The dark blue, which is at the bottom of the graph, shows the rainfall totals. So that's where you see that 11 millimetres being accumulated, 2, 2, 1.5, 1, 1, 1. So it gives you an understanding as to the rain's going to come in around the middle of the day, won't be much, then it clears up. This is why rural weather is so useful, because it's not just saying rain on Thursday, it's telling you exactly how that rain will fall, how heavy it will be. And even if this is a little bit wrong, plus or minus a little bit, still gives you the understanding that it's not a day with 100 millimetres of rain on the way. So hopefully that's useful for you, Steve, and for other people around Hawke's Bay and other parts of the country really wanting that rain to come back in.
I was just thinking it's very handy for when you need to get the sheep under cover before the rain comes. You know exactly if you've got time for lunch before you do it. Thank you so much, Phil, and I really appreciate your time. That's Phil Duncan from Rural Weather, a partner of Global HQs, and of course to Sarah's Country every Monday night on our Newsmaker Mondays. Please head along and check out ruralweather.co.nz, and Steve will be getting that enamel mug off to you. I'd love to get some South Island locations, email me, sarah@sarahscountry.com, and all you have to do is just flick us through your address and you can go on the draw for a personalised My Rural weather forecast from no other than Phil Duncan. It's pretty simple, so send them through, sarah@sarahscountry.